The Klerksdorp Spheres represent one of geology's most perplexing and enduring enigmas. These small, spherical to discoidal objects have been extracted from pyrophyllite deposits mined near Ottosdal in South Africa's northwest province. Their story begins deep in the geological past, long before the dawn of humanity. The pyrophyllite, a soft, secondary mineral, is itself found in deposits that are estimated to be approximately 2.8 to 3 billion years old. Miners first encountered these strange objects decades ago, pulling them from the solid rock in which they were embedded. The spheres immediately sparked curiosity due to their remarkably regular and often perfectly spherical shapes. Some specimens exhibit a distinct groove running around their equator, a feature that strongly suggests an artificial origin to many observers. The objects vary in size, typically ranging from a few millimeters to several centimeters in diameter. Their color can be anything from a dark reddish-brown to a lighter, almost bluish hue. The surface texture is often smooth and feels unusually durable to the touch. The composition of the spheres has been a subject of intense scientific scrutiny. Most are composed of hematite or goethite, which are common iron oxide minerals. Internally, many of the spheres are not uniform, adding to their mystique. Some are solid mineral, dense and heavy for their size. Others possess a fibrous internal structure, with fibers radiating outwards from the center or arranged in a concentric pattern. When broken open, certain spheres reveal a hollow cavity, a feature that defies simple explanation. This hollow is sometimes filled with a soft, spongy material that disintegrates upon exposure. This internal complexity adds another layer to their mystery, making simple natural explanations more difficult to formulate. The debate surrounding their origin is sharply divided into two main camps. One side consists of academic geologists who believe they are natural geological formations, known as concretions. The other side is composed of researchers and theorists who argue they are manufactured artifacts. These artifacts would have been made by a long-lost, technologically advanced civilization. Opponents of the natural origin theory point to the well-understood process of concretion formation. Concretions are masses of mineral matter that form within sedimentary rock or soil. They often form around a nucleus, such as a fossil, a shell, or a simple grain of sand. They grow as minerals precipitating from groundwater accumulate and cement the surrounding sediment together. This process can, under certain conditions, produce remarkably spherical objects over immense timescales. Scientists in this camp argue that the Klerksdorp spheres are simply a type of iron oxide concretion. They believe these formed in volcanic sediments that later metamorphosed into pyrophyllite. The fibrous internal structure is explained as the crystalline growth of the constituent minerals, a common pattern in nature. The equatorial grooves, they suggest, could be a result of fine-grained sedimentary layering. The sphere may have formed across different layers of material, creating a natural seam or weakness. The variations in hardness between these layers could cause the groove to form during the metamorphic process. This explanation places the spheres firmly within the realm of known geological phenomena. However, the out-of-place artifact, OPART, proponents find these natural explanations wholly unsatisfying. They argue that the degree of sphericity and the precision of the equatorial grooves are too perfect. Such perfection, they claim, cannot be the result of random geological processes. Some spheres have been measured and found to be balanced to an extremely fine degree. This characteristic seems highly unlikely to occur in a natural formation. The idea that these are manufactured objects opens up a world of incredible speculation. If they are artifacts, who could have possibly made them? The geological strata they are found in date back nearly 3 billion years. This is a time when According to mainstream science, only single-celled organisms existed on Earth. This would imply the existence of an intelligent species predating humanity by an almost unimaginable span of time. This hypothetical ancient civilization would have possessed technology capable of creating the durable and precisely shaped objects. The very existence of such a civilization would rewrite the entire history of life on our planet. Further fueling the controversy are anecdotal reports about the sphere's unusual properties. Museum curator Rolf Marx was once quoted as saying that a sphere on display was observed to slowly rotate on its own axis. This supposedly occurred within a locked, vibration-free case, a phenomenon for which there is no conventional scientific explanation. Such stories, while compelling, are often difficult to verify and are not typically published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. The scientific community largely dismisses these claims as hearsay or the misinterpretation of subtle environmental factors. These factors could include imperceptible vibrations from traffic or minor seismic shifts. Nevertheless, these tales have cemented the sphere's legendary status in the realm of paranormal and ancient astronaut theories. The spheres are often cited as definitive proof that Earth was visited by extraterrestrials. Alternatively, they are presented as evidence of a forgotten global civilization in the deep past. Scientific analysis has provided some concrete data, though it has not fully settled the public debate. X-ray diffraction studies have confirmed the mineral composition of the spheres. These studies identified goethite and hematite as the primary components, both common forms of iron oxide. Microscopic examination of the grooves shows that they appear to be natural bedding planes. This observation is consistent with the concretion hypothesis. Geologists like Bruce Cairncross have studied the spheres extensively and have publicly concluded that they are indeed natural phenomena. He points out that similar concretions, though perhaps not as famous, have been found in various locations around the world. The specific geological conditions in the Ottostal region were ideal for their formation. These conditions involved volcanic ash deposits and subsequent low-grade metamorphism. This unique environment was perfect for the formation of these particular types of iron oxide nodules. The process, while resulting in an unusual outcome, is not seen as mysterious within the geological community. Despite these thorough scientific explanations, the allure of an ancient mystery remains incredibly powerful. The visual evidence of the spheres is undeniably striking and evocative. When you hold one of these objects, it feels unnervingly like a manufactured item. It might feel like a small cannonball or a piece of a game from a lost world. The human mind is naturally drawn to patterns and apparent design. This cognitive bias makes it difficult to accept that such regularity could be a mere fluke of nature. The story of the Klerksdorp Spheres thus becomes a classic case of scientific explanation versus intuitive belief. It highlights the tension between what geology tells us is possible and what our eyes and imaginations suggest might be true. The narrative of a forgotten, hyper-advanced civilization is far more romantic and exciting. It easily outshines the slow, methodical, and complex process of mineral precipitation. The media and popular culture have eagerly embraced the more sensational aspects of the story. Documentaries on ancient mysteries frequently feature the Klerksdorp Spheres. Websites dedicated to unexplained phenomena and books on forbidden archaeology present them as a star exhibit. They are often presented alongside other parts like the Antikythera mechanism or the Baghdad battery. In this context, they serve as evidence that our understanding of the past is fundamentally flawed. The spheres are not just geological curiosities. They are transformed into symbols of a hidden history. They are used to challenge the very foundations of archaeology, geology, and human evolution. This popular narrative often omits or downplays the detailed geological explanations. It focuses instead on the seemingly impossible characteristics of the objects, which are more captivating to a general audience. Let's delve deeper into the concretion process itself to understand the scientific viewpoint more thoroughly. Concretion formation begins when a mineral starts to precipitate out of water percolating through sediment. In this case, the mineral was an iron-rich compound. This precipitation often starts around a tiny nucleus. This nucleus could be a grain of sand, a fragment of a shell, or even a dead microorganism. As more and more mineral is deposited, it cements the surrounding sediment particles together. For the Klerksdorp Spheres, this sediment was fine volcanic ash. The growth tends to be uniform in all directions from the central point. This uniformity naturally leads to a spherical shape, much like a pearl forms around a grain of sand inside an oyster. The process is incredibly slow, taking place over thousands or even millions of years. It happens as the sediment is buried deeper and begins to turn into solid rock. The specific environment of the Dominion group supergroup, where the pyrophyllite is found, was crucial. Around 2.8 billion years ago, this area experienced significant volcanic activity. This activity laid down thick beds of fine-grained ash, rich in various minerals. This ash was particularly rich in iron and silica. Later, this entire geological formation was subjected to low-grade metamorphism. This is a process where heat and pressure alter the rock without completely melting it. This metamorphism transformed the soft volcanic ash into the even softer pyrophyllite. It also likely played a role in hardening and refining the iron oxide concretions that had already formed within it. The fibrous internal structure seen in some spheres is a direct result of how the mineral crystals grew. The goethite or hematite crystals grew during this process, often radiating outwards from the central point of nucleation. This created the distinct internal texture. What about the famous equatorial grooves that so intrigue observers? Geologists explain these as a result of the concretion growing across microlayers in the original volcanic ash sediment. Even a seemingly uniform bed of ash will have subtle variations. These can be variations in grain size, chemical composition, or compaction. If a concretion grows across one of these bedding planes, the plane can become a line of weakness. It can also create a textural difference on the surface of the finished sphere. During the subsequent metamorphic phase, stresses in the rock could cause a slight separation. Differential weathering along this plane could also occur, creating the distinct groove. It is, from this scientific perspective, a fossilized remnant of the original sedimentary structure. It is not a deliberate carving made by an intelligent being. Now, let's contrast this again with the arguments from the artifact proponents. Their central claim is one of irreducible complexity and manufactured precision. They might ask, how many natural concretions have been found that are so perfectly spherical? They question how these objects can be balanced to such a high degree of accuracy. While many concretions are roughly spherical, the Klerksdorp objects are often cited as being exceptionally so. The artifact theory suggests that these were not just random objects, but perhaps had a specific purpose. Were they ball bearings for some massive, ancient machine that has long since rusted away? Were they a form of sophisticated ammunition for an unknown weapon system? Could they have been symbolic or ritualistic objects, like marbles for a giant, unknown game? Or perhaps, in a more modern interpretation, they were data storage devices, the hard drives of a 3-billion-year-old civilization. This line of reasoning quickly moves into the realm of pure speculation. This is because there is no associated evidence to support any of these fascinating hypotheses. No ancient machines have ever been found. No weapon systems have been discovered. No cultural artifacts have been unearthed alongside the spheres. They exist in a complete vacuum, isolated oddities within a vast and ancient geological context. For the artifact theory to be considered plausible, we would have to accept a monumental premise. We would have to believe that an entire technological civilization existed, flourished, and then vanished from the face of the earth. This civilization would have left behind only these few enigmatic spheres, and absolutely no other trace of its existence. This is a very difficult proposition for scientists to accept. It directly violates the principle of Occam's razor, which states that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. The concretion theory, while perhaps less exciting, requires no new scientific principles and fits neatly within our existing understanding of geology. The story of their alleged self-rotation is another key element of the mystery narrative. The account, often attributed to Rolf Marx, the curator of the Klerksdorp Museum, is a cornerstone of the paranormal interpretation. The claim is that the sphere, isolated from any obvious external forces in a vibration-free display case, rotated on its own accord. If this were true, it would defy the known laws of physics as we understand them. Proposed explanations from believers range from the object containing a strange internal power source to it responding to unknown cosmic energies. Skeptics, however, point to more mundane and likely possibilities. The museum building could be subject to imperceptible tremors from nearby traffic or minor seismic activity. Even subtle changes in temperature and humidity could cause the display case or the shelf to expand or contract. This could induce a tiny, almost invisible tilt that would be enough to make a finely balanced sphere roll. Without a controlled, repeatable experiment under laboratory conditions, the story remains just that, an unverified and compelling story. The debate also touches upon the very nature of evidence and belief. For the scientific community, evidence must be repeatable, testable, and subject to rigorous peer review. The mineral composition, the crystalline structure, and the geological context of the spheres are all forms of hard, testable evidence. For the opart community, the primary evidence is the object itself, its seemingly impossible form and precision. They argue that the object's existence is evidence enough to challenge the status quo. They believe science should be trying to explain how it could have been manufactured, not trying to explain it away as a natural phenomenon. This represents a fundamental difference in epistemological approach, a clash of worldviews. One side relies on established processes and principles built over centuries of research. The other side champions the unexplained anomaly as a key to unlocking a new paradigm of history. The Klerksdorp Spheres are not entirely unique in this regard, a point often missed in popular accounts. All over the world, similar objects, often called Mookie marbles in Utah or shaman stones, are found. These are also iron oxide concretions, and they too have a rich history of being considered special or mysterious by local cultures. While they may differ in exact shape or size, they are formed by the same fundamental geological processes. The Klerksdorp Spheres are simply a particularly striking example. They happen to be found in a very, very old geological formation, which amplifies their mystique. It is this immense age that truly sets them apart and makes the artifact hypothesis so tantalizing. An artifact from 2,000 years ago is a matter for archaeology. An artifact from 2.8 billion years ago is a complete rewriting of the history of life on Earth. Let's consider the staggering implications if the artifact theory were ever proven true. It would mean that intelligent, tool-using life existed on Earth billions of years before the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian explosion is the period when most complex animal life first appeared in the fossil record. It would predate the dinosaurs by over 2.5 billion years, a span of time that is difficult for the human mind to grasp. This would force a complete reevaluation of everything we know about the theory of evolution and the history of our planet. It would open the door to profound questions about where this civilization came from and where it went. Did they evolve on Earth and then suffer a catastrophic extinction event? Or were they visitors from another world who briefly stopped on our planet, leaving behind these small trinkets as their only sign? The implications are staggering, which is precisely why the idea is so popular. It is also why the scientific bar for accepting it is so incredibly high. In the end, the Klerksdorp Spheres remain a subject of immense fascination. They are a powerful testament to nature's ability to produce forms that mimic deliberate design. They serve as a perfect Rorschach test for one's personal worldview. A geologist sees a beautiful and textbook example of concretion and metamorphism. A mystic or a conspiracy theorist sees the calling card of an ancient intelligence, a message across time. The truth is likely buried in the 2.8 billion years of history that separate their formation from our current observation. While the overwhelming scientific consensus points to a natural origin, the spheres retain a small, persistent kernel of mystery. That mystery ensures they will continue to be debated, discussed, and wondered about for years to come. They are small, silent witnesses to a past so deep it defies easy comprehension. The miners who first pulled them from the rock could never have imagined the enduring controversy their discovery would ignite. These humble stones force us to confront the vastness of geological time and the limits of our own understanding. They constantly challenge our perception of what is natural and what is artificial. The grooves on their surfaces seem to trace the fine line between established science and open speculation. Each sphere is a miniature world of its own, holding a story written in the ancient language of minerals and time. And as long as they exist, the fundamental question will remain. Were they shaped by the patient, indifferent hand of nature, or by a hand of a different kind altogether, from a world we can only dream of?